Hey Bullfroggers, welcome back to the shop. This past weekend my buddy and I slabbed a huge, beautiful red oak log on his property, and that was my second time using the Granberg MKIII Alaskan Chainsaw Mill. I noticed it needed a few tweaks. So in this video I'm going to show you the 4 improvements I made to the mill. Let's get to it. My first tweak was the stabilizer bar. The mill comes with these 5/16 wing nuts to tighten the bar in place. Problem is, my middle-aged hands can't tighten these enough to prevent them from vibrating loose. So it's a constant battle to keep this bar in place while I'm cutting. I happen to have these 5/16 knobs left over from my drill press table and fence project, but they can be found at any decent hardware store. Their larger diameter will allow me to get this a little bit tighter, better leverage, and crank that nice and tight. I also added a small lock washer underneath the regular washer. That'll help also keep this thing from vibrating loose. If you're listening, Granberg, I'd recommend fine threads on this T-bolt instead of coarse. By the way, did you all know the difference in function between fine and coarse threads? Feel free to skip to the next chapter if you already know. I don't have a fine thread example, so I got out the corresponding taps. These are both 5/16 taps, and if you don't know what that is, this cuts threads on the inside of a hole, like you have on a nut. And this is 5/16 18, and this is 5/16 24. The second number, the 18 and the 24, tells you how many threads per inch measured in this direction. So this has 18 threads per inch, this has 24 threads per inch. The 18 threads per inch are bigger, 24 threads per inch are smaller. Now, coarse threads are designed to resist being pulled apart. The reason for that is they're bigger, there's more meat, more metal that needs to be displaced in order for this to get pulled out of a nut or whatever. So coarse threads are excellent when you're concerned about the pieces pulling straight out. Fine threads, they're best at preventing the nut from vibrating loose. And because there are more threads per inch, the angle is lower. The angle of the threads is lower. And if you've ever encountered a doorstop that was made with too low of an angle, you probably noticed that it is possible to wedge that thing under the door super tight. So tight that it's difficult to get it out. That's what a finer thread will do for you because of the lower angle. So again, coarse threads designed to prevent just being pulled straight out, fine threads designed to prevent the nut loosening from vibration. My second tweak was this locking nut. Now the way these are made is this rod is forged on one end to make it too wide to slip back through the hole in the nut. Then the rod is inserted in the nut and the other end is formed in the same way. Voila, a captive rod. It can't fall out. The issue here was the slight angle. I don't know if you can see it here, this angle right here. That was created during the forging process, and the angle was too narrow and it allowed the rod, the wide part, to get wedged into the hole in the larger nut portion. I tried forging these, heating them up and hammering them to make them wider, to make that angle wider, but that didn't work. So what I ended up doing, I think you might be able to see it on this one here, is I filed away the end to make a little tiny square shoulder on there so that this rod did not wedge in there. So now this thing moves back and forth without getting wedged. The third tweak I made was this U-bolt. The one side comes out here for this locking nut, but the other side stuck out quite a bit farther, and this would interfere with the motion here. So I cut off about 5/16 on this end of the U-bolt. Now you've got plenty of clearance to get your fingers in there, whatever you need to do. And the fourth tweak that I did was I added a couple washers right here. And the reason for that was when I would tighten this locking nut all the way down, this end of the U-bolt would go in so far that it would jam up against the rod and again prevent this from sliding back and forth. So these couple washers gave me a little clearance there. Those 4 tweaks will make the Alaskan Chainsaw Mill better and easier to use when I slab this huge sycamore log in the next few weeks. That's it for today, guys. Don't forget to hit that like button and please consider subscribing so you don't miss any new releases. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time at Bullfrog Pawn Shop.